Hello and welcome to another top 10 video. This is actually the 16th top 10 that I've posted on this channel, and it's not a top 10 at all, it's a bamboozlement. It's a top 12. Top 12. We've had a top 18 before when I did my Pokemon Types top 10. That was top 10 number 4, which you can check out in the top 10s playlist. But as you can see from the thumbnail, the title, and the thumbnail again, because it's on screen, this is the top 12 Doctor Who Season 10 episodes, or Series 10, depending on your preference. I think it's technically Series 10, so we're going to go with that. Series 10 only has 12 episodes. Most Doctor Who series seem to have 13. I've been rewatching some of the older series, just for funs, because they're awesome, and they all seem to have 13. We have 12 here for you, because there's only 12, and we are not including the Christmas special, because that's not an episode, that's a special. So we just have the 12 different episodes that appeared, and finished airing on Saturday. So, obviously, prepare for some spoilers of some kind, because we will be talking about Saturday's episode, as well as all of the other episodes, and this is ranked in my personal opinion. I did see that an official list had been posted of how highly they were ranked each episode. My opinions are genuinely different, but there is a common theme of which episode is very clearly the best episode. So, without spoiling anything, and without any further ado, let's jump into our number 12 entry. Number 12. So, for our number 12 entry, we have episode 9, The Empress of Mars, which is the episode I personally thought was the weakest episode in the series. It had just come off the back of what was actually a pretty good 3-parter, and quite a lot of people were quite hyped for the return of the Ice Warriors, I believe they are called, if I remember rightly, because they had been in Doctor Who before in the classic Who series, so they were a popular return, but I don't know, I just felt that the episode wasn't that strong. They were stranded on Mars in 1870 something, I think it was, specifically. They were stranded on Mars, with no TARDIS, because Nardole, hecked up with the TARDIS. And so the Doctor and Bill had to try and negotiate their way through with the Ice Warriors and the Victorian dudes who happened to be there as well, because one of the Ice Warriors who crashed on Earth had taken them there. It was a weird plot point and a weird story, and quite a lot of them died, and then the Ice Warriors and the humans had to become friends and cohabitate because Mars was a dead planet now. That was basically the solution to everyone's problem, apparently. That and the fact that the guy who was in charge was not supposed to be in charge, and the one underneath him was like, yes, you will now follow me, and then he was a bit of an asshole, so they killed him. I think, if I remember, I think he died. But yeah, I just felt the episode was reasonably weak. The Ice Queen woman was dull. She was just like, I'm an Ice Empress, I suppose, not Queen, really. I am the Empress, you will die now, fleshy human boy. And then she shot a few and they turned into cubes, if I remember rightly. That was a thing that happened. They got cubed. But in general, it was a sad time. So that is why it is my number 12 pick for this cheeky list. Number 11. Episode 1, the pilot, is my 11th choice for this list. It was a good episode, I enjoyed it. It was obviously the episode that introduced Bill officially, because obviously there was the cheeky teaser that had been shown online, which had Bill and the Doctor, which was kind of part of that episode. It also had Daleks briefly, which was cool. We like Daleks. The story was a bit odd, to be honest. The character of Heather was irritating. She was just like... She didn't seem to fit. She was just kind of there. And then, all of a sudden, she got, like, obsessed with the Bill. And I know they were trying to do the whole, like, oh, Bill's a lesbian thing, and make it be like, oh, look, that she's, like, loves her or something. But it didn't really work. I don't know. It didn't work. In my opinion, anyway. And so it just seemed a bit weird. Because, I mean, they'd met, like, what, twice? 3 times, maybe? Bill and Heather. And then she's just like, oh, now I'm a water thing. And I'm going to follow you around the universe because I'm weird. And I'm a weird water creature. And, that was odd. But then it was a good Kickstarter for Bill being in the series. To see what the Doctor was like, kind of thing, and I thought it was a good way of introducing her. There was a cheeky nod to Clara in the episode as well, which I liked. So that was cool. And River was there in a picture. He had a picture of River on his desk, and he was like, "Oh, look, it's River." So it's clear that obviously the Doctor remembers everyone, and he doesn't want to do adventures with Bill. But then he does. He changes his mind because he does actually want to do adventures with Bill, and so that kickstarts the series, which is good. So Bill, I like Bill, honestly. She was a good companion, even though she's only going to be here for the 1 season. So having the episode introduced her be so low on this list is a little painful, but there are better episodes in the series. So the pilot is only going to reach number 11 on this list.
Number 10.
Episode 3, Thin Ice, is my number 10 pick for this list. This was Bill's accidental first trip into the past after the events of episode 2, when instead of taking her back to the university and to where Nardole are, he accidentally sends them back to the 1800s, I believe it's supposed to be, to a time when the Thames was frozen. It was like the Thames Festival. I don't know if that was actually a thing. It might have been. I just kind of went with it and assumed it was. I've never really thought about it or questioned it. So we're just going to go with it's a thing, and I'm not going to do any research, because who puts research into a top 12 list anyway? Yeah, so it was the Doctor and Bill's first, well, not the Doctor's, but Bill's first adventure into the past, and they had to deal with, it was like Bill's first experience not saving someone and realising that the Doctor can't always save everyone, kind of thing. Because obviously in the previous episode, everyone was kind of already dead, so he couldn't have saved them anyway. But it was a good episode. The premise was there was a creature at the Thames. There was a dude who was not a good dude who was exploiting said creature in said Thames. And so it wasn't like the creature was the bad guy. It was actually the dude. And then they were able to free the creature per Bill's instructions. Bill was the one who chose to save the creature, and she also saved some homeless kids because they were getting eaten by the creature under the ice. That was a thing that was happening, and I think they were harvesting its poop or something. I don't really remember quite how that worked or why they were doing that now. Quality top 10 list here, by the way. But But yeah, it had some good moments. There was a good moment with I can't remember the human character's name, the bad guy. But you know who I mean if you've seen the episode. There was a moment when the Doctor and him were talking that was like a really deep speech, and then the guy's like, "Oh, that was a really deep speech. It would have moved anyone else," and then he's just still an asshole. And then they beat him, and the Tem unfreezes, and the creature escapes because they save it, and then they come back, and Nardole tells them off because Nardole doesn't like the Doctor leaving the vault because he has to guard the vault. This is pre what's in the vault. So yeah, but it was a good episode. So it's not going lower than it's still in the top 10. I mean, that's good, and it is the number 10 spot on my list.
Number 9.
Episode 2, Smile, is my number 9 pick for this list. This was Bill's first look into the future, like official look into the future, because technically she does time travel in the first episode, but this was her first proper adventure into the future, where they go to a human colony, where there are robots who don't understand emotions quite right, but they are representing by emojis, and they detect sadness as bad and kill people because of it. And so all of the colonists, when they get there, they discover, have actually been turned into fertilizer for their bones by the robots. And then it turns out that they were not actually the colonists, they were like the pre-colonists who were setting up for everyone else. And there is a ship there, which the Doctor discovers after he's about to blow up the robots. And then he has to make a choice to save the humans or the robots, and because he's the Doctor, he is able to save both, and he's cool, and he erases the minds of the robots, and basically says, here's some humans who want to live with you and be friends. They're homeless, and the humans just have to kind of get along with it, and the Doctor leaves them to it. But it was a good episode. It takes them a while. It shows Bill's excitement at seeing the future properly for the first time, because obviously she's like, wow, this is a cool city, and then they realise that actually this is not a good place to be, and then they start worrying because they realise that if they show any negative emotions, that the crazy robots are going to kill them, basically. I think there's a crazy robot in the picture doing his little smiley face thing that they did because emojis. And yeah, it was a good episode though. So, Smile got my number 9 pick on this list.
Number 8.
Episode 8, The Lie of the Land, is coincidentally my number 8 pick for this list. I didn't plan that. I should have done. That would have been cool. But I didn't. I didn't plan that at all. That was just coincidence that number 8 is actually the number 8 episode. This was the final part of the sort of 3-parter, but not officially because they classed it for some reason as 3 separate stories thing. For all intents and purposes, I'm classing it as a 3-parter. So, deal with it. It's my list, I can do what I want. So this is the final part of the 3-parter, Lie of the Land, which was the conclusion to the monks stuff that happened in the previous 2 episodes. Well, it was more the previous episode, because the first part was different again. We'll get to that when that gets its entry. So, in this episode, we have the Doctor, but he is not with the others. He's with the monks on his ship, which is like, well, it's not his ship, it's just a ship. And the monks have taken over Earth because of the events of the second part, in which Bill, speaking on behalf of Earth, gets them to save the Doctor. which also cures him from his blindness, because that's a thing. In the previous parts, he had gone blind. Spoiler alert, because I warned you, there are spoilers. The Doctor had been blind in previous episodes. He is now not blind because of what happened in this episode, in the previous episode, and Bill and Nardole are the only people who seem to remember that instead of the monks being there since the dawn of Earth and running everything, that they actually have only been there for 6 months, because of Bill's choices. And so Bill, the Doctor, and Nardole have to stop the monks because they're not supposed to rule Earth. That's bad. So they have to infiltrate the cheeky London-based pyramid place, and the Doctor is trying to erase the telepathic field without having to kill Bill, because the only other person who they know who's encountered the monks before is Missy, who at this point has been revealed to be in the vault. Spoiler alert again. And she knows that the only way to stop said monks is to kill the person who made the choice in the first place to let them rule, which was Bill. And obviously the Doctor doesn't want to kill Bill, so he has to find another way. And the way they manage to do it eventually is not the Doctor, it is Bill who saves the day in this particular episode, because Bill's memories of her mother are strong enough to overwrite the lies put into her head by the monks. And so she broadcasts that to the world, and it blocks out the monks' signal, and then the monks dissipate and leave, and everyone is saved, and then happy days. And it's a really good episode, and I enjoyed it. It obviously isn't the best of the three-parter, because it's the first one on the list, and it's an ascending order towards which is the best. But I still enjoyed it. Honestly, I think the end was a little weird. I don't know. I don't know if they were swinging it that because she was the person who made the choice, her thoughts were supposed to be more powerful. I'm not sure if that's how they were trying to pull it. But to me, it seemed that I don't know. It seemed weird how they did it, and the monks who had the power to rewrite the entire history of the Earth were defeated because Bill likes her mother a bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it was still a good episode. So it's getting the number 8 pick on my list.
Number 7.
Episode 10, The Eaters of Light, is my number 7 choice for this list. This was the last episode before the 2-part finale episode, in which Bill and the Doctor, and Nardole, who is joining them for this adventure, go back in time to Celtic times when the Romans were invading, and they basically go to there because they want Bill and the Doctor have a debate to see what happens to the 9th Legion, which is the Romans, because Bill doesn't believe that the 9th Legion was defeated by the Celts, and the Doctor does. And it turns out that both of them were wrong, and that the Celts actually have a dimensional portal in their lands, of which they summoned the Eaters of Light, who defeated the Romans. They absorbed them with their weird tentacles. You can see them in the picture, in the promotional picture from BBC themselves, courtesy of the BBC. And so the Doctor has to work with Bill and Nardole and the survivors of the 9th Legion and the survivors of the Celtic village to stop the Eaters of Light from basically taking over the universe. So after convincing them that they have to work together instead of just letting them just kill each other kind of thing, because they're just like, you invaded us, we're Celts, and the Romans were like, we were just doing what we were ordered to do by Emperor Boy. The Doctor basically decides that to save everyone, he is going to go into the portal for the rest of eternity, so that the Eaters of Light never have to come through again, because obviously he can live longer than the normal dudes. Because how they didn't done it before is because time passed quicker in the other dimension, so about 5 minutes in their world where the Eaters of Light were was actually like 60 years here. They were able to send a chosen Celt through the portal every 60 years, and that was how they kept them in check before. But instead, this time, the Celts and the Romans together team up and stop the Doctor from going through, and instead go through themselves. And so the remainders of the Ninth Legion and the remainders of the Celt army go through the portal to fight the Eaters of Light together, and it shows them in the present day. So obviously the Celts were a long time ago. My history on the dates of when the Celts were a thing is a while ago. It's like 1,500 years a while ago, and it shows them today, and the music that the Celt people plays as they went into the battle can still be heard from the hilltop where the Eaters of Light portal is today, because there was lots of them instead of just the one Celt that went through. They were able to fight them off for longer than, and they kept the entirety of the universe safe for the whole time. And I thought that was a really good story. It's one of the few stories that I actually thought, you know what, this story doesn't actually have anything wrong with it. Because in the previous ones, it's just like, oh, they're kind of just like throwing it together here. But then there was some good moments. And then some bits were a bit dodgy, kind of thing, is what I'm getting at. This one just felt like a strong episode, which honestly, it surprised me, because I think it's more because this episode followed the Empress of Mars, which I didn't like too much. So I literally just sat there and watched the Empress of Mars and been not that impressed, hence why it's in my bottom slot. And then I saw the preview for this one and thought, this episode looks dumb, and then just like forgot about it for a week, because obviously there's a week between each episode. And then I watched it and I thought, actually this is a really good episode, so it's making my number 7 spot on the list.
Number 6.
Episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World, is my number 6 choice for this list. We're getting towards the big boys now. This was the second part of the Monks episode, in which the Doctor and Bill and Naro are summoned to a pyramid which has been put on the border between the American forces, the Russian forces, and the Chinese forces, with the monks in. And they have to go to the pyramid, and the monks are trying to convince the people who lead the army to join with the monks to save the world, because there is a disaster going on, unbeknownst to everyone, that otherwise will wreck the Earth in like a year's time, and everyone will die due to some completely unrelated events, which the Doctor eventually figures out due to I don't know the actress. I don't remember the character's name either. But basically the character is a scientist, and she breaks her glasses, and a whole ton of other events happen that mean that when she ends up in her workplace, she unleashes a deadly chemical upon the world, and the Doctor goes to stop it once he discovers that this is actually the cause, and it's not anything to do with the armies that the pyramid is between, and that is actually just a ploy. And he corrects the issue. However, because he is still blind from a previous episode, he then becomes trapped with the chemical. So even though he has saved the entirety of the world, and the monks now are not needed to save the world. He has lost himself because he will die because of it. And so, to save the Doctor, Bill goes to the monks and basically gives the Earth to the monks to save the Doctor. Even though the Doctor tells her not to do so. Which sets in motion the previous episode that I talked about, which is the one in which my mind's gone blank. The one where the monks have already taken power. So this is how the monks take power, because of Bill's choice. So, yeah, as you can tell, this part is obviously, I prefer it because it's higher up on the list. It got number 6. It was a good episode. I enjoyed this one. I like how everyone is trying to save the world in their own way. So the armies when the armies think it's actually them, they agree to join forces and be friends and not actually fight anymore, because they think that will save the world, and then they won't have to hand over their planet to the monks. And then how the Doctor is able to stop the catastrophe from happening, and then the monks. That was a good bit. I enjoyed that, and how it keeps going back and forth, so the audience know that something's up with whatever is going on with these other characters that you don't really know until this episode is a thing, but nobody else does until the Doctor figures it out. So it was pretty good. I don't know how I feel about Bill basically just giving up the Earth to save the Doctor, because I mean, I don't know. I know it's the Doctor, but I mean, at the same time, it's the Earth, so I don't know. That's literally the only reason I didn't put this episode any higher on the list, because of that reason right there. So I don't really have anything else to say about this episode. I'm going to stop talking now. So my number 6 choice was the pyramid at the end of the world.
Number 5.
Episode 4, Knock Knock, is the number 5 slot on my list today, which was the episode in which Bill and a group of her friends buy a house, or are looking for a house at least, and the landlord, I'm not sure if they ever give him a name other than the landlord, is the only person who offers them a house that is like cheap, and so they take the offer of the landlord and go to this house. But it is revealed in the episode, after the Doctor decides to help Bill move in with her friends, that the landlord is not who he seems, and he's been doing dastardly schemes that end up removing the tenants of his house every 20 years, I believe it is supposed to be. And in doing so, he is keeping his mother alive, who has been turned into wood because she was dying, and that was the only way he could save her, by turning her into wood with some weird alien insects that he could control with sound by resonating them in the house, because the wood in the house was basically made of these insects. And it was a really clever episode, and I really enjoyed it. It had some like creepy-ish moments. It never went full creep. None of the episodes in this series really were like full intense. This is a creepy Doctor Who episode, because there have been some episodes in the past, obviously, which are like full crap episodes. Because obviously the classic ones, you got like the Weeping Angels. People seem to find those crappy episodes. Those ones never really bothered me too much. And then there are other episodes. It doesn't really make a difference which episodes they are, but this was as close as this series got to really having like a creepy episode, in my opinion. Apologies for my creaky chair, by the way. It's gotten worse since the last time I did a top 10, and these are the only videos I really do where I'm just like here talking to you guys these days. I did an update last week though, so that counts. That's not relevant to this top 10 or this episode. There's not too much to say about it really. The Doctor was just trying to save everyone, and he did manage to save everyone. And in doing so, the landlords who thought that the mother of the landlord, who was the one who was turned to wood to keep her alive, thought that she was her father because he was so old. She didn't age because she was turned to wood. And so he just went along with it to protect her, but obviously he'd gotten old and they wouldn't realistically be around for long enough to keep this up. So together the two of them just kind of depart, if I remember rightly, at the end, and they just like move off with the insects, and the insects are gone, and they leave the house, and he's able to save all of Bill's friends, and it's a whole happy time. And it ends on the cheeky gag that Bill still has no accommodation and stuff, blah blah blah. It was good though, I enjoyed it, and it was a really good episode, and so it got my number 5 pick on this list.
Number 4.
Into the top 4 we have episode 12, The Doctor Falls, the big finale of the series. The episode that only came out 3 days ago from when I'm uploading this top 10. In which the Master, Missy, the Doctor, and Bill, who is now a Cyberman, are trapped on the spaceship from the previous episode, which was this. I don't think it had a name, but basically it was trapped at a black hole, which meant that certain areas of the ship went faster in time than other areas. And they were trapped on a level which was like a farming level. And the Cybermen wanted to get them, basically. So, Nardole, Bill, the Doctor, Cyberman Bill, by the way, and then the Missy and Master. John Sim was back. That was a good thing about this episode. Had to fight back against the Cybermen, although Missy and the Master didn't really do that. They kind of just like hecked off. Missy tried to help. And then John Sim went down to his TARDIS, and then the Doctor like blew up the floor after Nardole had escaped with all the others. The main crux of the episode was the fact that Bill was a Cyberman, and because Bill was a Cyberman, all the regular people who lived in the farming level of the ship were terrified of her because she's a Cyberman and the Cybermen are trying to kill them, kind of thing. But because there had been so long, because of the time shift, since they'd been down on the level they were in the previous episode, the Cybermen had become super advanced Cybermen, basically like the debuted in season 2 Cybermen, Cyber Industries kind of stuff. But yeah, so it was cool because the Cybermen were back. They haven't really. Well, they have had, because they had that Clara episode with the Cybermen, but that was the first real Cybermen episode we've had in a while. They've made it all about the Daleks and the Master because Missy's been in it a lot. And having John Sim back was cool, so that was a nice touch. But yeah, so it was they had to stop the Cybermen. And to stop the Cybermen, they were able to blow up the level that the Doctor was on, which almost killed the Doctor. But then Heather from episode 1 was there. She came out of Bill's tears to save Bill, who was like dying in her Cyberman suit. And then they got the Doctor into the TARDIS and went off into the universe. And so that being the end of Bill, basically. She didn't die, but she's just like not in the show anymore. And then the Doctor was trying to force himself to not regenerate, and then the TARDIS gets upset with him and takes him to a frozen wasteland, which we briefly glimpsed in the previous episode at the start. And while he's trying to suppress his regenerations, he sees a figure in the snow who turns out to be the first Doctor Now, not played by William Hartnell. He's played by someone else. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the first Doctor is there, which sets up the Christmas special. Supposedly, they're going to have a Christmas special, which is a 12th Doctor, First Doctor adventure combo amazingness. So can't wait for that. That's going to be amazing. But yeah, I felt that this was the weaker of the two parts. Honestly, I did enjoy it, and I liked that they brought back the First Doctor, and I liked that Missy tried to help the Doctor. And then I also liked that John Sim hexed himself in the future as Missy. I liked it all because, I don't know, it just felt right, because Missy's character was more leading towards being with the Doctor the whole time anyway. That was the whole Vault plotline that they'd been going on about. And then obviously John Sim was like the villain master from the previous series. So to have them playing their own characters, but then playing the same character at the same time, was really cool to see, because we didn't really get to see a lot of synergy between the two, the Master and Missy in the previous episode. They basically just had like one scene, and then it was just like dun dun dun, end of the episode. And to see Bill struggling with being a Cyberman was really entertaining, and I really enjoyed how she was trying to cope with that, but then at the same time didn't really want to cope with that. Her going off with Heather was a bit of a cheap ending though, so I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, whatever happens, this was a really good finale. It definitely wasn't the best finale they've ever had to a Doctor Who series, but it was still a good one. So it is the number 4 spot on my list.
Number 3.
Episode 11, World Enough and Time, is my number 3 entry, which is the first part, conveniently, of the two-parter finale that we were just talking about when I talked about the second part. And yes, I am putting the first part of the two-parter higher on the list because I preferred it more. It was a good episode. The episode starts with the Doctor and Nardole, Bill and Missy giving Missy a test run at being like the Doctor. So she and Bill and Nardole are doing the adventure while the Doctor watches from his TARDIS. But things go terribly wrong when a blue guy turns up who is warning them about humans because people keep nicking the humans. Weird looking white suited people keep nicking the humans, and then he kills Bill by shooting her in the chest with a plasma gun thing that gives her a big hole in the chest. But then the white people kidnap Bill and take her down to a lower level of the ship, at which point it is revealed that because there is a giant black hole that the ship is trying to reverse from, that different parts of the ship are in different time zones and go faster or slower. So the level that Bill is being taken to, about 5 minutes on the level that the Doctor is about 10 years down there. So Bill ends up being there for a long time. They've given her like metal parts, and she's with a weird, creepy janitor dude who is basically, if you've ever seen Babylon 5, he is very reminiscent of Zathras in how his character plays, and it's quite entertaining. And they bond and become friends over the 10 years that she's down there, and she's always trying to wonder what is going on with the white creature. Well, they're not creatures, are they? They're like white. They're people, basically, in like white suits, and they are just like keep converting people into these weird white suits and stuff. They're like face masks, and they're carrying around drips and stuff. And they're building up, and the Doctor and Missy and Nardole go down to rescue Bill from the things that whatever has kidnapped her, to find that they are literally just too late to save her because she's been turned into a Cyberman. And not only that, the creepy janitor, who is very reminiscent of Zathras, as I already said. Did they give him a name when he was the janitor? I don't think they did they? Either way, they revealed that he was John Sim, previous actor who played the Master, playing the Master again, in a point in time before he transformed into Missy, or regenerated as they actually call it. But after his former appearance? Did I just say appearance? I meant appearance. His former appearance in... what was his last appearance? I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was the double special in like 2008 or something. I don't know when it was. But it was a David Tennant double special, which was the finale of David Tennant, and it was a good episode, and I liked it. But yeah, having John Sim return was good. They literally had him on screen as John Sim the Master for like less than a minute. But they showed him in the preview from the previous episode, so it wasn't the biggest surprise, and they made a big deal about it. As you can see, the promotional image for the episode, which came out, obviously they showed it before the episode was even released, has him on it. I mean, they could have kept it as a surprise at least, but I mean, I feel like that would have made it more impactful. But it was really good because the majority of the episode was from Bill's perspective as she was waiting for the Doctor to come down from the other level to rescue her for 10 years, and it was how she coped. And how she got ever curious about the what they were doing to the people there, and then she discovered it because they turned her into a Cyberman, which is what they were doing to the people. And it had some really quite creepy scenes. I know I said about Knock Knock being the creepiest episode, but honestly I think this was probably the creepiest episode in hindsight, because this had some pretty creepy scenes. I mean, the people were just like there pushing their little buttons, and they were just like pain. Instead of helping them, she just like turns down the volume. The nurse woman just turns down the volume on it so it doesn't like keep going pain. But yet the guy is just like still pressing the button, and then they keep all trying to like grab her when she goes to the window and stuff. It's pretty freaky, but it was really cool, and I really liked it. And for them to then be revealed as Cybermen was cool. And to have actually Bill become a Cyberman, because they never had not in New Who anyway, I don't know if they did in Classic Who, but they've never had like a proper companion become a Cyberman, because I mean they had, what was his name, it was like Danny or something, who was Clara's boyfriend, became a Cyberman, like an undead Cyberman weirdness. I don't know what it is with the Master and the Cybermen, because the Missy had a Cyberman episode as well, if I remember rightly, where she summoned back the Cybermen. That was all her as well. But yeah, this was a really good episode, and I really enjoyed it, and it got my number 3 pick.
Number 2.
Episode 6, Extremis, is my number 2 pick of this list, which basically reveals what my number 1 pick is, but we're not going to talk about that quite yet. Episode 6 was the first part of the Monk episode, in which the Doctor gets an email on his little weird glasses things that help him see even though he's blind, from himself, from a simulation of himself, in which the simulation is run by the monks, which is the way they are introduced, and it is how the monks are basically practicing to take over the Earth, in a simulation that they have run. But the Doctor is in the simulation, so that they can try and obviously beat him as well. So the Doctor is there doing his little thing, because obviously they all think it's real in the simulation. And there was an exceedingly hilarious scene when Bill and, I don't remember the girl's name, her date, whoever Bill's date was in the episode, I think her name might have been Penny, but I might be completely wrong, so don't quote me on that. But she showed up at Bill's house, and they were like, oh yeah, let's have some coffee, blah blah blah, and talk. And then the Pope runs out of her bedroom because the Doctor has brought him there in the TARDIS, and they have to go to the Vatican with the Pope, and then he's reading the book thing that are making people commit suicide for some reason. They don't know, because everyone who's read it has killed themselves, basically. And then the monks appear. They like come out of some portal, and then they follow the monks back through the portal. At which point Nardole gets erased, but then it's like not actually Nardole, so it's okay. It's fake Nardole, and then Bill and the Doctor go all around, and I think they end up in the White House. And they're at a point when the simulation is. I don't remember what happens to Bill, but she ends up getting erased somehow by the monks. And the monk is there in the White House, and he's talking to the Doctor, and the Doctor basically says to monk that he's still the Doctor, even though he's a simulation of the Doctor, and then he has been using the glasses, which are the glasses he uses in the real world to see, that he has because he's blind, to record everything that he's seen in the simulation, and he sends it to himself, his real self, in the real world. And it was a trippy episode just to figure out what was going on and what was real and what was not real, but it was very good and very well done. And the fact that even though he knew he wasn't the real Doctor, he was still able to provide what they needed to save the day in the end, because then that gave the Doctor the forewarning that he needed about the monks to set his plan in action, which kickstarts the second part of the three-parter. Sorry, I almost said two-parter then. I'm a foolish boy. Which kickstarts the second part of the 2-3-parter, where it is, where the Doctor and Bill and Nardole already know about the monks and have to deal with the monks when they realise that the pyramid is there and stuff. I don't know why I like this episode so much. It's just so good. I like the way that even though he's not the Doctor, he was still able to compose himself to a point where he was able to inevitably save the day, kind of thing. Because when Nardole discovered that the simulation wasn't real, he went through the thing, freaked out a bit, and then got erased. Bill got erased. Everyone else who read the thing, the Extremis thing, and discovered they were in a simulation killed themselves. But at the same time, the Doctor was there, and even though he wasn't the Doctor, he was a simulation, he was still the driving force of the plot. And it was really clever how they did that, and I liked that. So, it's going to get my number 2 pick for this list.
Number 1.
Episode 5, Oxygen, is my number 1 pick for this list, which I believe is also the highest rated episode of the series, and with good reason, because it was a really good episode. We're having a bit of a creek fest with me right now. Hang on, sorry about that. The premise of the episode, they took Nardole on an adventure with them this time. So Nardole, Bill, and the Doctor end up on a space station, which has already been previewed to have a disaster in progress on it. Like in the same way they did with Smile, where they showed the characters before they were removed and turned into calcium. It shows 2 of the characters outside in their spacesuits, and one of them then becomes a zombie. And so they go to the space station and discover that the spacesuits are. The air in the spacesuits is like purchased from a corporation, and basically if you can't afford your air, they turn you into weird zombie oxygen things, because the suits, you like, your body is still in the suit, but then the suit is like controlling them, kind of thing. It was a bit of an odd kind of concept, but it was really cool and well executed. And the TARDIS and the Doctor got separated, and then his sonic screwdriver got destroyed, and then Bill ended up in a malfunctioning suit, and so they had to go the whole episode while trying to cope with Bill being in this non-functioning suit, and yet he had to try and keep her alive. And he makes like tons of sacrifices to try and ensure that she does, including walking through the vacuum without a helmet, because her helmet malfunctions, and so he gives her his helmet, causing him to go blind, which is a recurring plot point. I have mentioned it in previous episodes, because it was in the first 2 parts of the Monk episode he was blind. So it was a recurring thing, it wasn't just like an easy fix. They're able to fix how his eyes look, so they look normal, but it doesn't actually bring back his sight, which they reveal at the end. So he's blind in this ship, trying to save the day. Bill seemingly becomes one of the weird spacesuit zombie things, but it is revealed that the Doctor actually has a plan, because her suit is malfunctioning and has less power than the others, which is why it keeps malfunctioning, and he has to give her his helmet, etc, etc. When it has the thing which it's supposed to do to kill her, it doesn't actually have enough power to kill her, so she survives, and he's able to resurrect her. Everyone else in the episode who does die is a goner, basically, at that point. And yeah, so it's not like, oh, we can resurrect all the people who were saved because I'm the Doctor kind of thing. It was just Bill who they were able to save, because the rest of them were basically dead. Which is why he's okay with sacrificing Bill, even though everyone else is just like, why are you sacrificing Bill, blah blah blah, not all, and stuff. Was all like, oh, why are you sacrificing Bill? And then he does a thing which seemingly, it seems like they are going to be upset with it, kind of thing. I think he threatens to blow up the station, and that shuts down the suits, because the suits need the project for the company, kind of thing. But it was a really good finish to the episode, where it revealed that he was still blind, and that was would become a reoccurring thing. I will say that word eventually, and I will say it correctly. I will force it out of me. But yeah, the episode was good. It was a really tense episode, especially in like as far as the characters go. They were in like an intense situation, which none of the other episodes really gave them, because they was just like, oh, nothing we can really do can stop them. I don't have my sonic screwdriver, yada yada yada. They had to just like get to the they had to get to the engine room, or the reactor room, basically, whatever it was. I don't know what the specific thing they called it was in the episode, and that would, if they didn't, that was basically just it. They would have died, kind of thing. So it wasn't just like, oh, I can stop you if you're coming near me, kind of thing. In the same way, like obviously, like with Smile, they just had to smile. It doesn't even have to be a real smile, because they can't detect emotions. They can just like perceive them. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, and it got my #1 pick for this list. And with that, we come to the end of this top 10. Hopefully you have enjoyed. It's been one of the longer top 10s. That partly because it's a top 12, and partly because I rambled on about some of those episodes for a bloody long time. But hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. This will be the last top 10 for a while, at least. Because starting next week, we should have some Pokemon Gold randomized Nuzlocke for you. Also on the channel, Hugh has been back. The new Let's Play we've started up, Hugh. You should definitely check that out. It's a great game, and I've been having a lot of fun doing those episodes. They are really good, so you should definitely check those out. We've got a cheeky Smite video coming out tomorrow, in which I played Jackal Knight and Nubers. Some cheeky bit of TCG coming out on Saturday, as normal. So, whole plethora of content for you guys. And hopefully soon I'll get a new headset to replace my dead headset, and then you won't have to listen to me talking to this crappy microphone for much longer. So, like I said, like, comment and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you in another video soon. Bye!